chair wants to.
Oh, we're starting?
Yeah, we'll start, yes.
My bad.
So we're starting on the meeting order at 1:31. Carl Kaminsky,
Present.
Jen Reiner,
Here.
Jim Kearns,
Here.
and I, Teresa Meschus, am also here. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the September 3rd meeting? Carl motions,
Second.
Jim seconds. Any comments? All right, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We don't have any public, so we don't have any public comment. Do we have any members' comments?
I got nada.
Okay. Then moving right on to the administrative report. Tom?
Okay, and I'm going to keep this short and sweet and high level so that we can enjoy Scott's motto and bask in the glow, shall we say. Real quick, memory care unit update. We are looking to do the punch list on October 14th or 15th, so I mean we're getting to that substantial completion moment, so to speak. I did have a conversation with our furniture delivery guy this afternoon before I came into here. We're looking at delivery on October 14th or 15th, so it's all, like within the next couple weeks, going to come together real fast. Still working through some of the other logistics and programming and whatnot, but for the most part, construction is really getting close to the end. Today, they hung the fire doors to the units, so we're getting ready to take down the temporary wall to the dining room and open all of that up. There was a little bit of flooring left to be done, and then the flooring is completely done on the units. I mean, we're really getting close to that end. Now, the courtyard might not be ready by the October 14th date. We have taken the retaining wall down for the third time, and it's
I
being...
was gonna ask about that. I drove by. It was like that this spring, it was further along.
Well, you know, they make this thing, it's called a level, and it has to be a level, but we haven't used a level. It was off.
Don't feel bad, you're the second one to say
Hopefully
that
it's
today.
not settling.
What's
I
that?
know it.
Hopefully it's not settling on them.
They dug it all out today. And I mean, they're literally
Put a new
starting,
basin.
putting a new basin and starting over. So I can tell you this, they did not look happy this morning.
Did they give you a reason for why this keeps happening? Like, this is the third time or fourth time?
This will be the third time they're taking it out and putting it back in. I think it's just they're not following what the contractor has laid out. And so when he goes in to then do the next phase, it's not lined up right. It's not the way it needs to put the gate in, to put the fencing on it. It's not this time. There's some dip in it. So they're back out there making it be at the right height. And there's some pitch work. You know, you want the water to run away from the building and, you know, not the other way around. So there's just a little bit of that. It wasn't set right. And so before they put the fencing in, because once they put the fences in, they're going to put the fence post through the retaining wall. That's it. It's locked in place.
So is this a contractor's problem that he's having with this, or is this your problem that you're having with it?
Contractors.
He saw it and it's like, no.
Yep.
Good for him.
Yeah, no. I will tell you, we've done, in the 15 years I've been here, we've done a couple different projects with different construction firms. This group here by far is the most involved and easy to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your.
No.
Well, you know, I was also wondering this, is who's having to pay for the
Not us.
continued man work?
Not us.
Well, they're eating it. The contractor that had to tear it out, I mean, that's his
They gotta build it per
inferior
brand.
product. He's the one that's eating it.
Yeah, there's no cost to us. And then the fountain that we were gonna put in the
Yeah,
middle of the
right.
courtyard is like 4,200 pounds. And so he's like, the contractor says, look, if you would go with something lighter and I don't have to get a crane, I'll donate it to you and just give you a credit back for the entire fountain. So we found something, same stone, it's just 3 columns instead of one giant block.
And they weigh 3,500 pounds.
No, because they're individual. They come in as 3 individual columns.
Yeah.
So no crane,
That's the way to do it.
that's gonna get donated and put in, so, I mean, that courtyard's gonna hurt that contractor a little bit. But they also didn't dye the concrete like they were supposed to. So the concrete's not supposed to be white, it's supposed to be, the color is autumn. Don't ask me what color that is, it's autumn. So he's gonna have somebody come out and dye it.
Stain it, yeah.
And stain it and then seal it, so, I mean, that's another cost on top of that, this is what the
Probably
drawing
a
said,
better
and that's what
product that
happened.
he's giving you.
What's that?
Probably a better product that he's giving you.
It's nice to have that colored concrete though, because if it chips, you don't have a white spot.
Yes. Yeah, and the one thing that we asked today at the construction meeting was, what is the lifetime on the stain, right? You know, are we restaining it every 5 years, restaining it every 10 years? Because now we're gonna have to build that into our
You
capital
know,
plan.
just go to those Jewels and those high-end grocery stores. They're pretty brutal. They'll take a lot,
Good, then we won't have to plan for it.
yeah.
And put it in Scott's model. So, but that's kind of where we're at with the memory care unit. I would think next month's meeting would be a good time to do another tour and walkthrough, because it will be past punch list, so it should be close to being, you know, visually ready.
When your suggestions for your names, I like Valley High Memory Care.
Boy, did you really think hard about that one?
I did.
Short,
I thought about
sweet.
what you would call it, and then that's what I finally came to.
We've got Traditions, Memory Spa, High Life, playing off the name, High Haven, Valley View, Heart of the Valley, Sunny Hill Estates, the Burroughs Blissful Living Unit, the Burroughs Mindful Meadow Unit, and there's a bunch of others, but
You better put Valley High Memory Care.
it'll be in the voting.
How about 3 patios, memory care?
3 patios. Should be 3 walls.
3 retaining walls.
When
Yeah.
you talked about the punch list, you're gonna be coming up to the
talked about that to a lot of
inspections, you able to get any cheat sheets of what different organizations are gonna be inspecting for what, so you can kinda know ahead of time?
Yeah, oh yeah. The architect coordinates all of it. So once she goes through with Ephraim Carlson and they do the punch list, she will then begin, Kirsta will then begin the process of the final document to public health. So the first one, the pre-occupancy survey, is gonna be pretty basic. They're gonna make sure that, you know, life safety code stuff, your building. And then they'll give you a temporary occupancy permit, and then they'll come back at some point. You know, usually they tie it with your annual survey, but once you've, you know, occupied the unit, and then they will do a regular certification survey, which is just your standard survey for that type of unit that you'll get every single year, and then they'll issue you your final occupancy. They love to tie your annual and that together, because then they got the crew already out here. The final occupancy for this unit, or the therapy room, was like 1.5 years, almost 2 years after we were fully using it, that they sent the person out there to do the final. So there's no rhyme or reason. It's just you can't occupy until the temporary is given, and then you're at the mercy of the team. Our annual is typically January, February, March, somewhere in that window. If we've already begun occupying at that point, I would imagine they'll tie the 2 surveys together and just do it at that point.
Okay, and this isn't gonna have anything different than, the rest of, the building when you have those guys that just show up for 5 days and give you a headache?
No, it's just one more spot for them to look.
Okay.
It won't be in addition to, it'll be as part of. So, any other questions, memory care related?
So we are thinking early winter for occupancy.
Yeah.
All right, excellent.
Yeah, and
So January, February?
that's what we're thinking. The way we've built all the modeling, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves in the conversation, but just so you guys know, the way we built the modeling for that unit's revenue is that the first 3 months of the fiscal year, so November, December, January, is a 0 occupancy. And then we figured, you know, like if you divide the year into quarters, 1/3 of the residents will be admitted to get to 21 in the first quarter, then the second quarter, by the third quarter, it's full. I know that that's a very conservative ramp. I'm gonna tell you that ramp is way too conservative. We've already have a nice list of potential residents. I would imagine we hit the second marker in the first month, and then from there, it's just fill the remaining part of the unit. So it will fill fast, which will just enhance what Scott's gonna show in a few minutes here when we walk through it.
Did we ever figure out, self-pay, Medicare pay, you know, what your mix-up was
We're gonna-
gonna be?
Hold that thought.
Okay,
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Any other thoughts, memory care?
no, I'll shut up.
Sentimental journey.
All right.
When are you putting the names out to your team to pick?
At the end of the month,
All right, so Jim wants,
we have an all-staff meeting tomorrow,
okay,
and I'm gonna remind them all, and I'm sure they'll be throwing them at me tomorrow. And then, I'll put it all in a list together and get it out to the team for picking. And the residents can be involved in it too.
It's the only name I can remember.
Is that a pun?
And there's just so many jokes we'll just leave on the
No,
table.
it's not.
I do feel like when I tell people, when I talk about my work at the county, I say, oh, you know, I'm on the Valley High Operating Committee, and they're like, and that is, I'm like, the county run nursing home. So for obviously Valley High Nursing Home, and that answers the question. So people do, they don't know they don't always, have us on their minds, although they should.
You know, you don't typically think about long-term care until you're exposed to it.
Right.
And then you're knee-deep in it.
Yes.
There's no dipping your toes in the water. So, real quick, we are watching the dock worker strike. That is gonna have an impact on supply management. So I don't know what that impact is gonna be yet, but it will have some. So we did bulk up a little bit, but not like we did going into COVID, and I'm kind of feeling a little upset with myself that we didn't think farther ahead with this dock worker strike. I really didn't think it was gonna happen. I thought going into an election, they would avoid having a strike of this magnitude at all costs. So hopefully it's short-lived, but just something to keep on your radar. And then the last thing I'll throw your way, earlier this month on September 8th, in the middle of the night, we did have a resident that went out into the courtyard and then went out the courtyard. So it is by definition what is called an elopement. Staff responded to the door alarm, saw the resident, brought the resident back, no injuries, no nothing. Public health came out, because we have to report that kind of stuff. They came out a week or two after that, did a review, low-level citation, which in a lot of ways, and this is the way I framed it with the staff, and I will reframe it again tomorrow when we talk about it, is we got a gift. We got two gifts, to be honest with you. The first one is nothing happened, right? We saw the resident go out, we brought him back, no injuries. The second one is, anytime someone gets out of your building unnoticed, it's supposed to be an IJ finds the whole work all the way through. So the question then becomes, well, why was it a low scope versus an IJ and all the other things that come with it? Couple things that were going on with this resident. One, they were just admitted, they were exhibiting behaviors, making comments earlier in the day. We had sent them to the hospital for a psych eval. Hospital the person gets to the hospital, explains to everybody, I'm fine, I just wanted more pain meds, blah, 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 blah. What does the hospital do? Kicks them right back. So we put them on 15-minute checks. Every 15 minutes, a staff member has to lay eyes on, and they document it. At 12:45, the 15-minute mark, staff lays eyes on, he's in bed. 12:47, he's up and on his way out. So he was already playing the clock. He went across and stood there like this. He just waited. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. We ended up sending him back to the hospital, and come to find out, the hospital has a separate record of this man's psych history. So we're not appropriate admission whatsoever, should have never been sent to us in the first place, should have never been sent back. So I think when you take all of those factors and then you add on staff response and everything, we actually had a supervisor in the building, a department head supervisor doing payroll at the time that this went on. So it was like, again, a couple little gifts along the way. So she was able to say, no, go do this, go do that, go do that. And so we operated at a really good level once we identified what was happening. So I think that the surveyor took that into account. It was the same surveyor who wrote the soup. And she acknowledged that when she came in the door, and she's like, I already know you don't like me. And I said, that's not true. We all have a job to do. And she says, I'm trying to be reasonable here. And so when she packaged it up to leave for the day, she said, look, I'm going to recommend it at a D, but Springfield could change this to an IJ. You just don't know. And, we thanked her and appreciated it. And as she walked out the door, I went, no, they won't. They're not even going to read it. Springfield ain't even going to spend the time. And within a week or two, it was already back out at what she recommended. So plan of correction's almost done already. We got the notification Friday. Plan of correction will go out this Friday, and we'll just be done with it. So again, the gift is we didn't have anything bad happen, but it's another one of those opportunities to take another fresh look at process. One of the things that we're having a little bit of a difficult time with, which will be addressed tomorrow, is the floor staff went after admissions right away. Like, how could you do this? How could you admit this person? Reasonable person standard. No one who's reasonable is going to bring somebody into this building that's going to put us at risk knowingly. So before we go and take the head off the admissions person, let's think about this a little bit. Why did it happen? Well, we didn't know. The hospital they have a job to do. Get the person out of that bed and into a nursing home. And if that means that they take this little information and they kind of tuck it to the side in order to make that happen, they do. And it's just the way the hospitals work. So you look like you have a question.
No?
Oh, you look like you're... Here it comes.
He was intently listening.
So, all in all, it becomes a little bit of a nothing burger, but it is important to at least mention to you guys that the incident did take place on September 8th. Staff responded well. The resident on September 9th was sent to a different facility that was better equipped with a locked unit to handle the residents' needs. So they're not in the building. Obviously, they're not going to be back in the building. And we have to have a conversation with the hospital here in the coming future about the risks and some of that. And I just don't know what the best avenue to have that happen is. But I can tell you my team and their team did not have pleasantries after that first incident. So, any questions on that?
Was that a temporary construction door?
No.
It was this one, right? Wasn't it this door?
Yeah, just went out.
That doesn't have an alarm that kicks in?
No, it has an alarm. That's how we responded to
Oh,
it.
okay.
Staff heard the alarm. They came out. Now, the one thing they could have done better, again, you know, we try to learn from everything, is the initial addressing the door, they went and they looked. They really should have gone all the way out and came back in, so there was a little bit of a delay. But they immediately started we call it a code yellow, and that means now count census.
Do a head count.
Yeah, and we start the process, and then within a second or two from that moment, through the dining room window, someone saw, and they were like, he's right there. And they went out and got him and brought him back. And he came back willingly. So it wasn't like, you know, a lot of times if you have a true elopement, the minute they see that you're coming out, they're gone. I mean, I had a lady do a full-blown spin move that would have made Michael Jordan blush back when I was a lot younger, and my thought was, I'm not going to catch her. There's just no way. So, you know, when then someone's looking to really move, to get out, they're on the run. He wasn't looking to get out. He was looking to just make a stink, like make a scene. Like I said, he was standing there, like just staring at the staff, like, come and get me. So, small minor bump
I
in.
also found it interesting why he was here. I'm like,
Well, Teresa's on the inside of a lot of these emails, so she gets to see the banter a little bit.
right.
And where I made the
Right,
comment
it's like
about.
he shouldn't have been able to leave if he needed service here. He shouldn't have been able to leave like that. The service he needed.
Yeah.
Right.
And well, in the hospital's like, well, yeah, he's just chasing pain pills, is what it is. He's looking for pain medication. These are great things to say prior to, yeah, we'll take them. You know? So, yeah, this one, there was a couple things that could have been done better. There was a couple things that were done really well. The report that was written, Tara, the assistant administrator, took the lead on that. And she wrote, I think that's part of the reason why we only got a low-level scope and severity, is the report she wrote, when the surveyor walked in, we just handed it to her and said, let us know if you need anything. I mean, it was that comprehensive, and it had everything. I don't know, it was like a dozen pages or more. So she did a really, really good job on the final review that got sent to public health, and they came out and spent a half day, 3/4 of a day with us and left. So that's kind of where we're at. I know you had sent an email and asked if I was going to address it.
Yep.
I had every intentions of bringing it up,
Yeah.
so,
Yes.
any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Well, with that, I'll yield the floor to any questions about anything. Otherwise, it is Scott's show from here on out.
Yeah. The model.
We waited a year. Go for it, Scott.
Well, let me let Gloria get situated, because,
All right.
All right, nerds, here we go.
drum roll. Okay.
Before we start, I did notice we have quite a bit of revenue allocated to the budget the other day when we were in from Valley High, so I'm assuming this is gonna be really good news.
All right.
Okay, Scott, it is yours.
All right, so now we know, for the record, Scott Hobbs, Deputy County Administrator, and model maker.
This is
for
the model.
And model maker for the county, finally. And anyway, I just want to thank the committee for the patience. I know this is long awaited, but as we went into this spring, which we like to do every year, update it with, you know, all the previous year's data and update the model. We had a few major hiccups that were unexpected. And the biggest one, which I know that sent a lot of the financial questions into play, was how interest was calculated. Because if you look at the annual report, it shows Valley High has a negative interest. And if you have money that's generating interest in the bank account, and you got investments that generate, how could it go negative? So that was kind of the first thing that really set us back. And then when we dug into it, there was a few other changes that really did not make any sense, so we had to cope with it. And that coupled with a lot of recent changes, such as we're going to call it the COVID, post-COVID realities. Changes in the Medicare, Medicaid rate, which really is a fundamental change from years prior to what we're experiencing today. Some, like I said, some accounting idiosyncrasies, or I should say reporting idiosyncrasies in how things were done. Just a lot of different things just kind of really caused the model to blow up. That's the best way to describe it. It blew up. It just wouldn't work anymore. So we had to do a fundamental rebuild. And we also knew that with the memory care unit coming online, as you're going to incorporate those revenues and associated operating costs, we wanted to make sure that the model then can do it. So if there was ever a good time to rebuild the model, this was the good time. And I do appreciate your patience as we did it, but as I reported previously, we wanted to get it to the best that we can, with the best numbers that we can, with the best projections, trends, assumptions, things that we knew and things that we can predict. We want to get that set as possible. And we're at the point now we can do the unveiling, but unveiling with just with the caveat that it's always going to be a work in progress. It's always going to change as new information comes available, as new costs come available, as what we assumed at one point in time and we know now, that gets built into the model, and now we can make those changes. So this is something that we're going to unveil, but it becomes now a tool, and that's what we call it, the Valley High Sustainability Tool, or Financial Sustainability Tool. So you can, as a committee, make decisions on how to keep this sustainable, but it's a tool to help you make that decision. And so with that, all those changes, I appreciate Tom and his team working with me to help get all the data put in place and get everything to work. And now we are going to give you an unveiling, and it's going to be anticlimactic because I'm going to show you these are assumptions, and some of these are old assumptions, but that's not why I want to put it on here, because I want to get the big reveal. If you're ready, boom, there's the model. Okay.
And no Simpson.
And no Simpsons. I couldn't get thee to the nerdery.
I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger, just so you can see it, but I don't want to go too big because I don't want to lose sight of some of the things. So now here it is, but let me walk you through. There's a lot of information on this sheet, but once again, it's a tool, and all these tools, or this tool takes all these variables that you and the county have to consider.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that page. So,
Yeah, no, sorry.
Come on in.
Yes.
That you have to consider based on certain points of time,
Okay.
and that will change this model up and down, left and right. But we wanted to put in a whole lot of...
You know what? They took the stuff down to the kitchen. Don't worry about it.
So there's a whole lot of decision points, but when I walk through it, it'll make sense. But it really, like I said, it's a tool for you. It allows you to run what-if scenarios. What about this? What if that? What if the dock worker strike, really tends to be a lot more substantial and increase our costs? How do we build that in? So you have the ability then to build that in and make it work. So the heart of the model really comes down to these three lines. The green line is, that represents $2.5 million of capital and indemnity reserve. $1.5 million in capital and $1 million in indemnity. Indemnity is if the county, if we have a lawsuit and we have to make a payout, you want to have a reserve to cover that cost. So that's $2.5 million. This light blue line represents 12 months of operating. Valley High's historically wanted to keep 12 months of operating in cash or available because it's an enterprise fund. It's reliant on payments from the state and from the federal sources, which historically or in the past were substantially lagging behind. But you still need to make payroll, you still need to buy food, you still need to have all these ongoing regular costs. So you need to have that cushion basically to absorb those points where the revenues aren't coming in because they're 6 months behind. We've seen it, it's happened. Things are better, I think, right now.
they're very good now.
But they can change. And
Absolutely.
so there's, right now, it still maintains that philosophy of 12 months of operating is where you want to be. So the combination of 2.5 million and the capital indemnity reserve plus 12 months of operating really represents kind of the line which we would recommend do not go below. So now anything above that in this dark blue is what we call unrestricted, the unrestricted fund balance. This is money that's above and beyond that do not cross barrier. So you can make decisions, if you have a major expense coming in or capital, the whole point would be, and the whole, I guess, the game would be to try to keep this dark blue line, just above, but not substantially above that light blue line. And you want to do this in a multi-year outlook, because it's like if you're in an airplane, and all of a sudden the airplane goes into a nosedive, and you have one bad year and you go into a nosedive, you can't just pull the airplane out and it pops right back up. It takes, it's going to take several years to be able to adjust for that. So when we see things going down and we can trend it, and we see things, not working the way they should, this tool allows you to make some decisions that are going to affect several years out to help bring that, the nose of that plane back up and bring that dark blue line above that light blue line. And so that's what this tool does. And right now, the way it's structured, it gives you basically a 5-year outlook. Okay. So it goes out to 2030. Now,
Sorry.
Tom, you had indicated earlier, so maybe you should go out to 2031. Keep in mind, as we get into the further out years, the quality of the data is, lose.
The assumptions get
You're making
real
assumptions.
loose.
Yeah,
That's good-
it's like,
good point, Scott.
a small degree change here is a large degree change, further out. But that's why this is an ongoing effort, and my recommendation would be to the chair, we make this a regular part of your agenda. If there's nothing substantial to show, that's fine, we can put it in. But as new information becomes available, we always keep this at the forefront, so you can see and make those predictions and those changes. And so that's the model. Now, any questions just on a high level, what the model does and what it shows? And I'll go into some of the detail about how it functions, but just
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm trying to see this from here without putting my readers
if you-
on, because my readers won't help me with that anyway. Are we now at the lowest point of that dark blue amount? That's what it looks like to me.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
That is-
just wanted to verify
Right,
that.
that's it. So this is the total overall fund balance. This includes the dark blue, light blue, and the green.
Right.
And we start back in 2018. Those who are on the board remember the Valley High rebate. This is where $8+ million went out the door. You can see the effect. And then over the past several years, we've been finishing in the red. I want to point out, this is 2022. This is the ending fund balance for fiscal year 2022. The reason why it's in a different color, if you look at the annual comprehensive financial report, it actually shows this to be about 23 million and change, about 23.5, as the unrestricted fund balance. And that is the number that typically drives this model, is the unrestricted fund balance in the CAFR, or now it's the annual comprehensive financial report. But we saw it was an anomaly because that year it reported a $3.5 million restricted fund balance. And I had to get my arms around that and had to talk to the finance department and better understand it. For that year, for whatever reason, only in that year, it took the fund balance and it reserved $3.5 million for a pension liability. It didn't happen previously, and then it reversed it when you hit into 2023. And so just little things like that which we didn't expect, and it really tripped up the model, because this would have shown you, a substantial drop down here, and then 2023 would have shown you that you were gaining in your fund balance, but you've been losing, drawing down that fund balance every year, so that wouldn't make any sense. So that was one of the challenges that we uncovered as we were updating the model, which then caused the rebuild. So the memory care unit is represented here. I just put some notes. This is in between, this is 2023 the fiscal year and into the 2024 fiscal year. So you can see the effect of the memory care unit, which is one of the reasons why it's much lower. So that comes into account. So that's capital construction. The total amount of the memory care unit is $4.3 million. But generally, we had $700,000 in 2023, $3.6 million in 2024. That cost, once it's built, will be over. It'll flip over into operations, and then we handle it a little differently in a model. So, The variables that you have, Valley High still has the ability to have a tax levy. If the county board says we want to do a tax levy, which you do every year, it's about $10,000. It's a nominal amount, and that's in order to preserve the county's ability to levy that tax. The tax was initially put in place via referendum. If you go 3 years of zeroing it out, and you will lose that ability to ever levy a tax again. So several years ago, and those on the board remember, a conscious decision was made just to put a nominal amount of $10,000 on the property tax levy, and you'll see this in October and November, only to preserve that ability. It's like I said, nominal, and we keep that in here. And if you ever need it, we can model what a tax levy would look like and its effect on Valley High if things, say, really go south. So you have that ability. Variable assumptions, personnel costs, as you've seen on this committee, personnel costs have fluctuate. There's been a lot of work to build up salaries. New staffing is coming online for the memory care unit. But, we have to predict what those costs are going to be. Tom has been reporting out to you that, there's legislation that says, your staffing levels could change. There's going to be a staffing mandate, and he's been reporting the potential effect on that. Well, you can build into the model what that effect will be over the next several years by changing the percent. We do indicate 2026, a higher level for a variety of different reasons. But if we know this number is going to be wrong, in any of that years, we can quickly make that change and you can see the effect. Similarly, with the operating
Do you have a
costs.
question?
No, Bob, a former county board member, just walked down the hallway. Yes.
All right. Similarly with operating costs, as operating costs increase, inflation increases, dock worker strike may have an impact on your commodities. We can build that in, and so
Let me speak to that just real quick on the personnel side. So we know that in 2020, going into 2025 for this fiscal year, it's 3.5%. So why did Scott and I put in 7.5%? Because we're figuring as we start getting closer to this mandate becoming effective, the competition for the available staff out in the marketplace is going to get higher and higher. And the way to compete with that is we're going to have to raise our rates for nurses and CNAs. And so that's why you see a 7.5 and a 10 going into 2026 when that law becomes fully implemented, and then we back off of that because at that point we'll have reached that staffing level. If the law does not go into effect and it gets
That's what I was gonna
struck
ask.
down,
Yeah.
then Scott, go ahead and show them what happens.
So if we want to, we'll just make this 5%.
And then it changes.
That changes
Yeah,
the whole model.
so
Okay.
when we put this together, we're gonna anticipate very conservatively what is on the horizon, and then as we experience it, we'll dial it back to what it actually is. So that's why you see the 7.5 and a 10. I'm not saying we're gonna give 10 in 2026, but I'm anticipating that there's a likelihood it's not gonna be 3.5, because we're gonna have to compete with the marketplace, not with other counties. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Tom and I appreciate you pointing that out, and when you saw when I made those changes, it changed not only this line, but also this line. And when you go from 10% to, I made it 2%, your operating costs are low, so your 12-month of reserve drops down, and then since you're not spending more, but you're still getting the same amount of revenue, it increases your unrestricted fund balance. But I'm going to change that back to 10, and you'll see that change again. So.
Tom, I just have one question. Our recent increases that we gave to staff,
Already baked in.
okay, but doesn't that give us some buffer in, already? So if we hadn't done that, we would be talking higher than.
Yes.
Can't
Okay.
confirm.
Okay, got it.
But we did that to eliminate the agency
Right.
utilization as well. So, it was twofold.
Okay.
I know we don't have a rear view mirror, but is there any way that you could toggle back to when we were doing this, where you showed the red that you were coming out of COVID, that you had all this money with less revenue coming into the decisions that y'all made that show that graph now?
I can pull up an earlier version of the model. I don't have it queued
Okay.
up, but I have previous versions saved.
Because there was a lot of red at that
So there,
X marks the spot.
There was,
That's where I was gonna suggest.
yeah.
Go on.
So, but between then and now, a lot has changed. A lot has changed in big cash infusions for COVID money came into Valley High. The Medicare, Medicaid rate was much lower. In fact, this is a chart we were just looking at, just to give you some perspective.
It's way back.
Yeah. So, right now, we are getting let's say we're getting about $500 per day for Medicaid, all right? In 2019, we were getting $278. 2014, $212. We're getting more than double per, and that is why in the old versions you saw the red, because basically Medicaid was the county was subsidizing any Medicaid bed. Now, the per day cost is covered and then some with Medicaid, and then Medicare is even a little bit more on top of it. As Tom said, there's never been a better time to be in the county nursing home business than today because of that. And so that's why you're seeing a very positive outlook. In the past, it was very negative. That's huge. I mean, we're getting more than double the revenue on your primary beds. So,
Although with that being said, we are one of the few nursing homes left, county-run nursing homes left in the state, and we're the healthiest. So.
That's not even close.
Right, they're not
Yeah,
even close,
you were
yes.
talking a boatload this spring that their doors were forced shut, if I remember right.
There was those weren't county homes, but there are county homes right now that are going through the exercise that we went through maybe 10 years ago, which is should we or shouldn't we be in the business? So, and some of them are locally around us, going through those decisions, whereas we're in a totally different boat.
How many are left, Tom?
17. 17 out of what, 104 counties?
Yeah.
Is that right?
100
108?
106?
106?
106. I feel like I should know this.
I feel like I should.
I think it's
what
104.
102 counties?
102.
Is that two?
There you go.
Whatever.
Oh,
What-
So we're all wrong.
it's 104.
What are they doing wrong?
Is the kelp still?
Well, a lot of.
Yes.
Help us,
Not,
yes.
what are they doing wrong to make sure that we never even get near that, is why I asked
Well,
that.
so they're at the state level, Illinois State Board of County Members. I feel like I messed up the name of their acronym.
The acronym doesn't sound right, but that's right.
Right. They have created a subcommittee that they're including us in, although we're not actually part of that association. But they're including us in because of the fact that Valley High is very healthy. And so they have a county board member and the administrator of the nursing home on this committee. Although we haven't actually had a meeting. Tom's not met them yet in this capacity, but
But I have met some of the people on the committee because
Right.
they pulled me out of a crowd and said something to me about it.
Oh, okay.
But so to answer your question, one is how healthy were you going into COVID? Because if you weren't healthy going into COVID, you didn't come out any better.
That's
And
right.
you came out 10 times worse. So we were healthy. And then we've been able to take advantage of the way the reimbursement systems have been moving and adjusting, whereas a lot of the county nursing homes, they are very reactive versus proactive. And that makes a huge difference, if you're chasing it versus driving it.
right.
So, I mean, that doesn't get into all the minutia of the
Right.
why, but it has a lot to do with that.
So on the premise that things like that do not happen overnight, I mean, bad things do happen quickly, but generally you can see your forecast. That's why this is a tool, because if we think things are going to start going south here, 2027, 22, you can make decisions today that'll help prevent that or help make it sustainable. So that's why, a simple tool like this, so you as decision makers can see the effect of that change and then what you can do in response to it in order to shore it up before you get to that point, before you're in that nosedive. Just want a few other points on this. The capital outlay. This is based on the schedule that Tom worked with Tom Burrows, our facility director, on what Valley High is going to need over the next several years. These are bigger ticket items, so that's baked in. So as this changes, like we just added the generator, if you remember that, or the manual
switch
transfer
box.
for the, that's built in 2025. That's added into this figure. So as things like that come up, and this could change every year. Needs can change, so we can always plug in those numbers, and you can see, you see a big drop from as we get into the very out years from 2029 to 2030. It dips down. It's because the parking lot rehab is built in. That's $1 million some project planned for 2030. Now you can see the effect that's gonna have on your,
Nice to come on.
your fund reserve. And so,
Million?
so you know, you can see it, we can plan for it.
Yeah. When we do the parking lot, one of the things reason why we haven't ripped it all out and done the back drive and all of that is it kicks in the new EPA water drainage requirements and everything else, and we've pushed that project out as far as we can. So, yeah,
You don't have that large a parking lot.
there's a lot underneath that parking lot that we'll have to address.
And we're paying prevailing wage. So, a cost of
And
living.
then you wonder why government goes broke.
So,
Never goes broke.
so Tom, I have one more question. As far as interest income from investments, I see Tom nodding his head. That's all worked in there.
It's all in.
And did you kind of look at it like how we talked about we would perhaps increase that to invest as much as we could without getting you in trouble or nervous about what we have left in reserves?
Yes.
Okay.
And I thank you for bringing
Yes,
that up.
to all of them.
We've been working with Treasurer Kurtz quite extensively on this, and ever since we came to you and said, here's what we want to do for an investment strategy. Donna just recently changed brokers, and she's coming up with a little different strategy on her investments. Right now, there's more development that needs to be done on the investment tool. And once we get seated with our new broker and kind of develop some of those strategies, we get a better understanding as to where things are gonna go. That's gonna be some more development, more improvement into this model, so we can really capture what that interest potential is gonna be, because there's a lot more, and the intent of this model is not only to give you the ability to see the decisions or the effective decisions, but it also will allow Donna and with Tom and I, to help advise on how much he can invest without jeopardizing the operations, without making Valley High short for cash, and over the short term and over the long term, because the intent is if we can invest the money we want to, and but more work needs to be done because of that change in brokers, but we do have a very conservative estimate of interest that's being accrued, or it's going to be generated in the out years. But as we update this model, we can speak to that and we get a better handle on it. We'll further develop that. There's a few tools I want to build really just for Tom and Donna in here that will factor, but it won't be necessarily something that, maybe when she does a presentation, we can show you how it will work.
I just realized we don't have, I don't know when the last
Oh.
time we had the,
I think it's coming from outside.
Yeah, that's the alarm.
That's the door alarm.
Oh, is
Just
it?
letting, you see people going out in the courtyard and coming back in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that just tells the staff that, hey, someone's going out.
Okay, I see. Okay.
I was looking in our previous packets for the last time that Donna had given us an update of how the investments are going.
I would say probably late winter, early spring, at the earliest,
Yeah.
most recent.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah.
Our revenue's gonna drop on that at some point. Interest rates will start coming.
And that's why she needs to strategize, with the opportunity, if she can lock something in now for a longer period of time, if interest rates go down, she gets the
Right,
benefit
should
of
have some
that.
protection.
Yeah, and that's all part of the strategy that's being developed and being reworked.
So,
I have a couple
banks to banks and the interest rates of the feds are right around 4.5. Mortgage interest rates were 6, 7. Those interest rates are going down. I don't think Donna's are going down. Do you? On a macro level, I don't
I-
think that, right?
She has, so she's been really actively investing, and if you remember I think it was about April or so, when she addressed the committee and said, and at that time, they thought it was gonna be last July, interest rates were gonna, the bank interest rates for cash was gonna really drop down. She said, we don't know, we sense it's gonna go down, so she wanted to start locking money into investments. She did. Now we're starting to see them go down, so what she locked in at, maybe at 5% or so for a multi-year, we're gonna get the advantage of that. So she'll have to speak to kind of what
Yeah.
her outlook will be, but I
I don't
she
think
had a
you'll
good-
see our money going down below 4 though, do you, Scott? I just don't, because still, the money is at a premium right
Yeah.
now with inflation.
Yeah, and she'd be the one to answer that
Yeah.
question as opposed to me.
Perhaps you can come and speak to us again.
I think she was planning on it.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Tom?
She's out of the country now, but.
Yeah, I had some words on
Well,
that.
let's have her join us
I
on
got a
Zoom,
couple
yeah.
observations
Yes.
on this, and then I want to ask a question, and I don't know if Tom will throw something at me or not. But, I'm really impressed. Our fund balance is increasing now to bring us back to, I mean, I remember sitting in those committee meetings in 18, 19, 20, and thinking, there's no way we will be able to get past this
Sustain it,
without putting a levy
yeah.
back in. And that, now you've proven that with the memory care unit, we can sustain that $10,000 levy, which we put in place years ago. Remember, they tried to do away with the levies totally on it, and the board members actually caught that and said, no, you gotta leave something in there to keep it active. So, so my observation there is, I'm impressed that, and that's, that you answered the question, thank you, because of the increased rates that we've got. Long-term, do you see those rates continuing? Can they continue to fund those rates out of Medicare? Do you see a possibility of them cutting it? That's my first question.
Okay, so that is a great question. Illinois ranks 48 out of 51 in Medicaid reimbursement rates. So that means there's still a lot of room to grow to get back even into the midpoint of all the different states. There's a lot of belief that by taking the two nursing home associations in Illinois and merging them together with one voice, that we could go after higher rates and get back into a rate that's somewhere around Iowa, Indiana, Wisconsin, like around us. So CMS Region 5. So I would say the merger part, since July 5th, that has been very actively sought. So that do I believe it'll happen? Yes. Now the question is, do I think that actually equates to higher rates? Well, I can tell you one thing. It will prevent them from lowering it. At least give us a backstop. Now, can I promise you that they will always stay at the 500 mark? No, because we get that CEA rate or the county add-on. And that the state and the feds could do away with that at any point in time and just say, okay, you're back in with the general public facilities. That would take us down into the 300 mark. Dramatically changes the calculus, and now you're changing how do you want to look at case mix, right? Because then we start pulling different levers. But I think for the foreseeable future, the next couple years, we're good where we're at with the rate. It's going to go up a little bit because there's another add-on that we're going after. So we're going to project it staying pretty consistent.
Great.
If I start hearing grumblings that, hey, Illinois is going to cut 10% out of the rate or whatever the case may be, we immediately go in and put it into the model and see what it does and start pulling levers. So that way we can stay ahead of it.
So,
Okay.
so this sheet, this is the sheet that ties into the model, and really calculates that rate. And it gives us the ability now, year to year, to estimate what we're gonna get from a revenue standpoint based on your bed mix. And you got general Medicaid, general Medicare, general private, and MCU's memory care unit private pay. There's a difference because of a different acuity level. So all these figures will change. But let's say, just hypothetically, Tom says, boy, it looks 2028, buckle up because we think things are gonna drop 20%. And so all of a sudden, 20% in Medicaid and 20% in Medicare. And see how it dropped down those numbers here, and then it carries it forward. Let's see what that does to the model. See how it changed the out years?
Yeah.
And so if we get the sense, or Tom hears things are gonna change, we'll be able to put it in a model, you'll be able to see this and say, okay, what do we need to do today? What do we need to change with the bed mix? What levers do we need to pull to prevent this line right here from dipping down into the do not cross barrier?
Right.
So that's why this model, once again, it's not really showing you, it's good to see it today, but that's really the utility for you is all those effects, what they're gonna be long-term for sustainability. So if this happens, then you can go and you can change the case mix. One of the big differences with this model compared to the last versions, I had more of a prescribed case mix. So if you wanted 100% Medicaid, it was you would put a 1, through. If you remember, we would put a 1.
Right.
This one, when we redeveloped it, because we now have general house, which was Valley High, and memory care unit, and there's a different rate for the memory care private pay. So you have the ability now to play with the case mix in both the general house and the memory care unit independently, based on whatever the different rates may be, and that can show you, give you some options as to what the right mixture would be to maybe bolster this up in years looking forward. What you see here, this is based on 80 regular or general house beds and 21 memory care beds, and that's 101 units. But you keep in mind, not very rare. In fact, it's almost impossible. You're going to have 100% of every bed filled because there's always people in transition. There's some beds they could be reserved for say, a female, and you only have males that are looking. There's all kind of different things that are always going to have open beds. So a general census, 100% census, is based on 80 regular beds and 21 memory care unit beds. And so with that, you can see this. The numbers are all the same through each year. This is all based on the last approved bed mix of, then it was 70 Medicaid, 30 Medicare, and then
20.
10. Was it 10?
It was
10
10.
private pay. Using that percentage, which actually, if you calculate, that's 59% Medicaid, 25% Medicare, and 17% Medicaid. This generally is what that bed mix would look like using the last approved proportion. And if you say, you know what, boy, things are looking bad in 2028, we know that we need to get more Medicaid bed or Medicare beds.
I was gonna say, we changed the Medicare
Yeah,
rate, so you
let's
don't want
drop this to 30. We changed them both, but we know we're gonna get more money. So then, there's a little test over here. So we need to make this one 37. Okay, did that help? And let's make this 30 and 37. All right, 30, 37. What's going on?
Saw the end go up a little.
it went up a little
It
bit.
did, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so all right, so you're starting to, pull it up just a little bit. But that's how we can, or how you can try to see what we need to do. And similarly, if you would want to boost up the memory care unit, you could. I just affected the general house. But that's how you can do this. Let's make this.
But Scott, the daily rate from 17 or 19 went from $220 to $500 approximately.
Yep.
That's $15,000 a month.
So
That's
now,
$180,000 a year.
yeah, just to be
Lord.
clear though,
That's
the
a lot.
basic,
Give you
the
a
basic,
snapshot of it, but there's all the different
Like,
sheets. Like
that,
it wouldn't
you've
work
got that
without
incentive
anything.
for the Medicaid, that's additional, and that's something that could fluctuate. But the basic Medicare rate is not likely to drop. Have you ever known it to drop?
Not the Medicare rate, but the Medicaid rate with the CE. The only thing that I worry about is the CEA rate. The floor of the base Medicaid rate, I can't see it dropping because
Yeah,
you're ranked
no,
48 out of
I
48,
can
or out of
see
51.
With
Right,
CEA,
right.
And it would export.
That's the county
Like
add-on.
other sheets that are
Do you
like-
remember
they
back in the
make
day
their,
we would talk
sheet
about the
they use for
IGT,
fund.
the intergovernmental transfer?
Yeah.
They just changed the acronym,
Question I have
you know, be all fancy.
is, do we have rates for assisted living?
Do we have them?
Yeah, do we know what the rates are for assisted living? Are they the same?
They're lower.
They're lower,
Yeah, they're gonna be lower because you don't have the same staff support.
right?
So depending on where you're at, a studio might cost you about $4,000 a month. And then if you need home health, which they offer, then you start adding on from there, and you can end up being more than a nursing home with all the add-ons. But if you're just basic assisted living, between $3,000 and $4,000 a month is what your average cost is. Here, it's about $8,000.
Right. So,
Stay
on
healthy,
my,
Jeff.
on my observation the first, and since I've been on the board in 8 years, we have pushed for 8 years now to get the memory care unit. We completed that this year. So, here's my, I think it was 4 years ago, we had a meeting, and he brought in the history of Valley High,
Yeah.
what created Valley High, and that showed it. Teresa, you were on.
Right,
this.
yeah, so one of the first meetings that we used to be in public health, but yes, one of the first meetings we brought in, there was a plan originally to
There was
really
the
expand.
original plan for this property,
Yeah,
and this property had Valley High, and then it had, which became what is now Pioneer. It had, so that ship has sailed for us. That's really not probably wise to try to do that, and compete with Pioneer. However, and this is where I'm going here, so take away anything hard that he can throw. That's how I can throw at me. But where I'm going here is now that we get this done, we're complete.
This is the old model, by the way.
Right, and we can see it, we can see what it's going to accomplish for us as we become more comfortable with it. My question for this committee and then for this board, or the future board, is do we want to start looking, because it's gonna take several years, 8 years to accomplish, start looking at another phase of that original plan, which would be the assisted living.
Correct.
And, I mean, we gotta look forward, we gotta be forward thinking, and would the board possibly want to do that and explore that? And maybe sometime next year, I don't know whether I'll be on the board or not, but sometime next year, we should bring that forward to the board and begin some of the studies that we did for this, to say, you know,
What would it look like? Because I remember that too, Tom, and it isn't like the septic system is there to capacitate.
So
Double.
the original, yeah,
it's all built for
the original concept
The
for this
infrastructure's
property,
already here.
yeah,
right.
That's
was
big.
to have multiple buildings. So the memory care was supposed to be small, was another building, and there's supposed to be small little
Right.
apartments on the periphery, and then an assisted or supported living. So it was supposed to be multiple facets. Pre-COVID, when we were struggling with staffing as a sector and everything else, we made the pivot from looking at a standalone building for memory care to converting part of our building as a
I
put
mean,
your
this
feet.
isn't even on the agenda. Can we go very deep with this conversation, or?
We can go deeper there because it's discussion.
Discussion, right, but I also think, yes, I mean, what you're bringing up now, I have talked about, not in the meeting, but outside of the meeting, talking about how there were bigger plans for this property. And at one point, Tom had said to me out of this meeting, "This has been a lot. He wants some time before we put more development."
I'm not gonna confirm nor deny that conversation.
Yes, yes,
But my
Yeah.
point is, I'm
Yeah.
just talking for
yeah,
future.
right, yes, yes,
You know, for future, and it would be a future board.
yes, it would be a future board.
But whether you build it or not, we have to at least look into it.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
you've
and-
already achieved one goal that you set out and figured a way around it to do it cheaper.
It would be a natural transition. You have your skilled, you have your short-term rehab, now we have memory care. If you do assisted living, it's kind of assisted living feeds the memory care, feeds the long-term, and it's just basically you continue to access new referral sources for yourself. So,
I think we name it Kern's Corner.
Kern's Corner is great. In fact, we can put it right on the corner over here. But, I was not kidding when I said there needs to be a little bit of a breather here.
Yeah, I think.
Gotta get my head above water.
No, but just
I
to start
understand
the
breathing, but
conversation.
It could take us, say,
It took 8 years to get this,
Yeah.
yes.
It took us
So-
8 years.
Has
So
it been that long?
The
Yeah.
breather
So
is,
maybe 8 more to get the other one. I think we
Nah.
should.
And
It makes me
Professionals
nervous.
now.
Well, it makes me a little nervous because we have just now done this and I'm very pleased with it and everything, but I do think we need to
But a look
give
at,
it-
start
let it
getting the
chill
wheels
out a
going.
little
well,
bit.
here's my point. We can see if in the next year and a half, 2 years, we can open up the discussion, but in the next year and a half, 2 years, we can actually see, because we won't be pulling that trigger for a long time.
Right.
We'll be discussing it, but we can see if this model is accurate. And if it really does grow the those reserves back to what they were in 18 and 19, then there's a possibility we should be looking at having it shovel-ready, what we would think would help Valley High long-term forever. That's the whole goal here is to make this sustainable, self-sustainable forever. Not because the world blows up around us, but because it's here and this is what's available. Private, the private homes, I mean, how many homes did we lose last year?
Too many.
Too many.
Too many.
Eventually, we're not gonna have enough to survive as our population ages.
Right.
So we should be aggressive, progressive at looking at this in the future. That's all I'm saying. I don't want us to take action.
Yeah, no
But I
spending
wanna
money,
open up
but
that
start.
discussion, and this is kinda early, cause, they're riding the high of this, and I don't wanna dump on your high of this, but I'm kind of like,
He did?
let's put the,
Too late.
let's put the pedal to the metal though, and, starting
Right there
next
with
year
you.
to go with this, because we're gonna see you're pretty accurate in your numbers.
So, with enough of the assumptions baked in, yes, I'd say we're pretty close.
Right.
And to be able to adjust them as they become realized and make all those little minor changes. But
So that's all I got to say, but next time, next year, if I'm here,
Yeah.
I'll be pushing that as hard as I push this.
Tom,
And I'm sure there's a break point where it gets too big to be, and then it's not run right, like you can handle, I mean, there's points, there's break-off points.
Right.
I think about Elgin, what was Elgin's hot, they had one, and that was so big, I think when it went down in Technicolor, back when I was a kid.
You talking about the Elgin Mental Health Facility
Yeah.
that was on,
Yeah, 31.
but
Yeah.
that was state run, wasn't it? It
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah,
run
but it was
by
so big.
That was
intelligent
state- that
people.
was
It
like
got to a
Kylie,
point where it
yeah.
was just too big to be
Yeah.
a boutique.
You didn't
But
wanna
right
end
now,
up
you
there
have a
either.
boutique. So I would
Yeah,
be
it was
careful
run
and
by
watch.
the state,
Yeah.
not
Get it too
intelligent
big,
people like
right?
we have here.
That's right,
But-
that's right.
A smaller-
a small
yeah.
model,
Mm-hmm.
and we could build it to
Yeah,
whatever, but we
because
should.
right now, it's
we
not
should
an
keep our mind
institution,
open.
Yeah.
I'd hate to
But-
turn
but-
it to one.
Yeah, and John has a good point. When you get to that level of operation, like South Elgin and like Kylie, you have a whole nother layer that
Yeah,
you're
you go
dealing
from
with.
boutique to institution,
Yes,
and,
and it gets to be harder to
I think we're-
manage.
but it's worth a thought. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
want to
it's-
dash your
It's,
idea either.
it's
John.
Well, the
good,
thing is-
it's good to
yeah.
keep it out there, and if you
Yeah.
can do it, and do it on a smaller basis, it could work. But I tell you, I have friends at Kylie, and I have friends at South Elgin. It's not it won't be a pleasant place to
Yeah,
work.
my sister worked at South Elgin.
Yeah.
It was an institution.
Yeah, you lose that, and that's one of the reasons that, they're going to a lot of silo homes and smaller group homes.
The little
because-
places like Little City of Palatine. It's not too big.
So,
You
so,
know.
So it's finding that
We'll
sweet
bring this up
spot.
next
If you
year.
Yeah. But keep that in mind, it's like, at what point do you lose the boutique and turn it into an institution?
No, they would just bring somebody in.
No.
It
Oh.
has
But the
to
thing
be,
is-
like the size. of
Tom
it.
did have
We
a
have
question.
we have a great need though in the county, and the referendum that put that kept Valley High going gave the county board a dictate to make sure that we're serving the best, which actually goes into case mix. So did you make the case mixes the same for the memory care unit as we've had for the general house?
yes, and it's the same proportion that was
Yeah.
last approved.
All the people that voted for that referendum are probably dead. It should probably come back. I'm just saying, looking at the county, looking at the market.
well, right now, we don't have a need for a referendum
Yeah.
because we're self-sustainable.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
I don't know how,
not levied in 8 years.
if you would have asked me a year ago if going out to the public on a referendum for a nursing home would have been successful, I would have told you no, and it would probably be the end. DeKalb proved otherwise. I mean, that community rallied around that nursing home and basically killed the sale of that building. And it is now self-sustained and running on its own again. So I would imagine that we'd probably we're a similar community, we'd probably see a similar result, but I don't want to test that theory either.
Right.
Right now,
What
I'd like
size is that one, do you know?
How big is their building? Bigger than us.
They're a lot bigger.
Yeah, probably
Yeah,
twice the
their
size.
population too, though, for the
Well,
county.
I'm just saying, you know.
Going back to what you said, how could the memory care be cheaper than this? Don't they need more care, which means more labor, means more
Nope.
money?
Nope, totally different model. So think of,
But they need more personalized care.
they need more activity-based programming, which is part of everything you do through the day. They are not medical model. They are hospitality model. So think cruise ship versus hospital. Okay, so the staff that are out there, yes, they're providing care throughout the day, but it's more of activity-based care. So getting dressed is an activity, setting the table is an activity. You have your morning routine. The residents are gonna help kind of do a little light sweeping, pack up the dishes. Like, you wanna normalize life as much as it is. And when they start getting into the medical needs, they don't qualify anymore. And so now we look for a bed availability outside the unit. They stay here at Valley High, but now they're in the medical model. And so yes, staffing bodies is the same, but it's more activity and CNA time versus RN time. So it's a different cost structure altogether.
So I'm glad you explained that way, because till recently, I totally misunderstood that unit. And now you put the explanation exactly.
Captain Stubing.
Yeah,
Permission to come aboard, sir.
I mean, in the past though, and I think it was 3 or 4 months ago, you actually explained it to me one meeting and that, and it just totally put a different light on it.
Yeah, I mean, just think about a resident on the outside could be getting AccuChecks every morning, vitals every day. I mean, all of these different medical touch points, those don't exist on that unit. Now, I'm not saying they won't get medical care. They will, and they will have a med pass, but that med pass is not like the med pass in the regular house.
Okay.
It's significantly lighter. So, just the best way to look at it is medical versus activity. And one model is very medical focused, tubes, bells, whistles, meds, doctor's visits, NP coming in and seeing them weekly. The other side is more activity-based programming, social service-based.
And Tom, is that why when MPA did the study, made a recommendation, they said the memory care unit will generate revenue for the facility because you have that less expense going into it with your staffing and everything else, but you can still charge, for that need.
Yep.
And so that helps supplement the other side of the house.
Yep.
And then, so this model then is reflecting that positive return.
Right, that's why I didn't expect it to reflect as much.
Yeah, it's just a complete different approach to the care. In fact, the building will be almost divided into 3 separate buildings by the time this is done. You'll have your short-term rehab, which is very high acute. You'll have your long-term, which is not as high of acuity as far as rehab and whatnot, but higher acuity on the medical side. And then you have the memory care unit. So it'll be almost like 3 separate companies all within one.
And then assisted care.
And then you have your continuum is closed.
Our fourth,
Yeah, 4th leg of the table.
What kind
The
of,
John Reinhardt wing?
no, the Kearns Corner.
what kind of
No, I
wait
said
list
the
do
new
we have for Medicaid? Because so our 80% is what we say we're having Medicaid, but what kind of waiting list do we have?
You know, I would have to go back and talk to my team, because we've gone through and cleaned up a lot of that list. There's definitely a good number of people that are on it that would like to come in, but most of them are already in a building. And so when you get to the point of decision-making, depends on whether or not they're happy. If they're remotely happy, they're not gonna do the change. So to give you a solid number, a percentage, I don't have it off the top of my head. As far as months, yeah, we probably have multiple months on there. But with our admissions right now from the hospital being as high as they are, pretty much every available bed is that in the long-term wing gets absorbed by someone who decides they're not gonna go home after their short-term stay. So they come in Medicare and then they end up flipping over, and then whatever their pay source is after that, we work it through. And they could go Medicare to private pay, a couple months of private pay, flip over to Medicaid, and then we flip them into managed care. And that could happen all within a couple months. Trying to put everything back to the way it
No,
was.
well, actually, I was just running, 100% Medicaid scenario.
Just go back to the 4th last saved.
Reverse, reverse, reverse.
So that's the model. The only thing I'll point out, as Tom touched on, when we look at fiscal year '25, we're not gonna have 100% of the year for the memory care unit. So this actually just takes in 80% of what we were projecting, and if you remember, Tom's report last year had what he predicted for revenues and expenditures just for the memory care unit when he determined what the staffing level will be. So 80% of that is for '25, and then it's 100% a memory care unit census moving forward. So we just put that little mid-year adjustment in.
But based off what his gut's telling him with the waiting list, yeah, you have that blank, but at the year end, when you tally up the numbers, it'll make it even look better from.
And it'll true it up every year, and, but we thought that'd be a good conservative, because you're gonna get at least 3/4 of the year at 100%, but you're gonna start putting people in the bed, come January, February, so you're gonna get a little bit more, so, that's why we feel comfortable with that 80% figure.
Can I just throw one more thing on that? As we ramp up that unit, even if we have, let's just say on day one, we have 21 residents ready to go, but if I don't have the staff to get to that level, then we're gonna pause that fill at the right breakup point. So it's just, wanted to throw that out, like, if we have 21 on a list on day one, don't expect we're going 21 in week one.
Right. You can't admit that many people.
No,
Within that.
I kind of made the mistake of saying, just loosely speaking in a group of leaders in the building, like, hey, we could probably pull this off all at once, and they're like, no, we can't. And I'm like, okay, you're right, we're not doing it all in one day. I didn't mean it that way, I meant like, it's in like, it's the steady, so their reaction was the same as yours, no, you can't,
You got the carrots out around the town.
it's not it.
Yeah, even for the larger institutions, they still try to keep in check how many new people they have coming in. One thing that I saw change over the years is that we started admitting people on weekends, in the evenings, and
Yep.
things like that. It used to be, like Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, when the director of nursing is in the house.
Yeah, now
Now
if
it's
you
like-
don't do 24 hours a day, the hospital doesn't call you at all. Yeah,
Wow.
yep,
So that's the model.
Done good.
It's a tool for you, and as you make decisions, you can plug them in and help you make your decisions.
Looks a lot,
Thank
hell
you.
of a
You
lot
guys-
better than
you
your
guys
last
did
model.
an amazing job. Thank you.
That's
really-
all Scott.
That really looks good.
Yeah, there's no red in
Tom,
that
you
one.
contributed. I know you.
my team did. When you get into the weeds like this, I need to have Claire and Rhonda sit through with us, which we've been doing, they've been meeting with Scott too.
That's amazing.
And once again, we'll continually update it as things happen, as new things come to the table. We'll make those changes, we can report them out, and we can make this a regular part of your agenda, or every 2 months, or whatever the frequency that you'd like to see.
Are we the only county in Illinois that has a tool like this?
100%.
That's the real reason he's not gonna share that with us.
Call Scott a tool.
I'm not gonna market it. I will sign people.
Your
I can tell
iPad
you
would
that
have to blow up after you run it.
not even the private sector has anything this comprehensive. I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, you'd have to do a non-disclosure.
And you asked about why are we different than other counties and whatnot, because of tools like this,
We take care of our own, yeah.
because of tools like this.
I was alluding to that earlier when I said, why were they failing? Maybe we could package this and sell it and make a buck.
If Scott was smart,
Well, he could,
know.
yeah.
he might have a consulting
Well, smart
company on the
is-
side,
Scott
He'd
is
be the
smart.
new
Hint, hint.
He'd be the new MPA with you, right?
Yeah, MPA doesn't exist anymore.
I know,
They were the ones that presented to us before, right?
yeah.
I had issues that they didn't give us anything other than just taking part of this building. Like, they didn't even present what the original plan was, which I didn't like then, and I'll now say again, I don't like now either, that they only gave us, what if we took 20 beds out? So,
But with these tools that
Yeah.
they've created,
yeah,
we don't need MPA to pay them all that
Right.
money.
right.
Yeah, at this point, I would think the only thing that you would need an outside company to do, just from a time standpoint, is any market research.
Yeah, and that's the front end of their work and the
Right.
question was, do we need a memory care unit? Is there a need in the community? And they did a pretty comprehensive assessment of the region to show how many beds are available,
Yep.
what that population, what the saturation level would be, and their recommendation was for memory care unit. And in fact, if I recall, the study supported even a much larger memory care facility. But as I think Jim pointed out, it was wanted to get into it, but we didn't want to eat dive head first. So it was like a dipping your toe into it and see how it goes, let it soak in, and then you could always make that decision. When I pulled up the last version, what's interesting about this is probably the last one, actually, I think the committee's seen that was live. Right here, this is your decision on memory care unit. We didn't know what the construction would be. We estimated 3.15 million. We know it was about 4 million. But this showed the impact of what they would do to fund reserves. And then we used MPA's estimates for revenues and expenditures, which, they were just estimates to really predict in the out years what how that memory care unit would perform. And it really enabled the county board to make that decision based off of this. And you see, this is, back then, this is, so 2023, it's shown 21.6. Oh, let's not do that. We're not going to be 100% on, but 2023. So, yeah, we did actually a little bit better. So, 24. But we also didn't spend $3 million in 2023. Had we'd be at 23 million.
And the new Medicaid rate kicked in at
Yeah.
that point too.
So yeah, so there's a couple of these changes, but so it kind of running a little bit true. If you back out all those idiosyncrasies between the two models and everything that happened from that point in time to this, like I said, it is important that we give you something to the best of our ability, something you can rely on. And because it's not going to be 100%, but at least it gives you that vision. You can see in the forward years, so we're glad to do this. I like to say part of our job is to ensure you have the information to do your job. This is just a tool to give you that information.
That's right, we're not happy till you're not happy.
No, thank you both, that was amazing.
Great job, seriously, great job, Scott.
Okay, what are we looking at for next month? So what kind of resolutions are coming next month, do you think?
Next month is November.
Yeah.
Well, that's starting to get fiscal year set up with resolutions for contracts and stuff like that. So we may or may not have, I got to go and look and see what years we're at in all of our majors. We will have to do medical director because he's the 1 year recurring.
I'm so
Yep. And there's a couple other little, like, one-off,
Okay.
1 year stuff. So it's more just, I don't want to say housekeeping, but housekeeping stuff. So, and I am expecting that the medical director is going to ask for an increase this year. He hasn't had one in 3. So baked already into the budget, so if he doesn't ask for it, it'll lower our expenses for next year. If he does ask for it, it's
Don't ask,
already.
don't get, huh?
Well, I hope he's not listening to this meeting.
Right, yes.
If he's
I can
smart,
assure you that
he's-
Dr. Egekese is busy
if he's
right now.
smart, he's
I've
listening.
always said this on our board before, they always say, well, they're gonna sue us over that. Well, gee, just tell them it's okay, too.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk spongy moths? There's spongy
There
moths
you
right
go.
there.
Oh, my goodness.
It's
It's
mushroom
amazing
season,
how-
I'd rather talk mushrooms.
It's amazing how many people don't listen.
Yeah.
You say something stupid, I always go back when I say something stupid and watch, and it's like,
If you go back to
think
when
to
that
someone,
jar
"Oh,
was
really?
first
You
set
said
on
that?"
the
So it's
desk
like, keep my mouth
by
shut.
Mr.
I promise I'd have to
Van
rewatch
Stoppen,
everything I do. I always say something stupid.
Okay, so there aren't any future topics other than what resolutions Tom will have for us next month?
And then we
That's a
should do a post-punch list tour.
And a punch, and a tour, yes. All right.
When is our meeting next month?
It's voting day, it's November 5th.
So it's Monday.
We're not really
It's
having a
actually
meeting that
Monday.
day.
Oh, it's before the voting, oh,
It's your
we're
voting
voting,
day.
okay.
Can't have it on the election, so.
Yeah, so if my memory serves me right, we moved it to the Monday before.
Okay, so November
I
4th.
think Kathy can confirm that.
I think she nodded as she was doing that.
Oh, Monday, that means I have to get my assignment done on time, Sunday night. Shoot.
So Wednesday?
It's Wednesday?
All
Okay.
day?
All right, so the day
It's
after.
gonna be on Wednesday.
Yeah, well, that day,
So we're
some
gonna
of
have
us,
2 meetings that day?
That may be a sad
we would,
meeting
yeah,
for
well,
You
us.
and I got 2
we
meetings.
want, more than half this committee is up,
Hey.
more than half this committee is up for election.
Well,
Everyone on this
More
committee?
than half. Mike Short,
well,
those who are not.
Terry and Teresa and I will have 2 meetings that day if it's,
There'd be
That's
5
true.
of us.
The only people who aren't up for
5 of
election
us.
on this committee are Terry and Gloria.
Okay. So, just,
so we're the only ones that know for sure that we're gonna have 2
yeah, you know what?
meetings.
I'll go and ask the question. I don't want to put it into the.
The record.
I was just curious as to
We can adjourn.
what's the
We
anticipated
can adjourn,
turn.
yes. Is there a
Make
motion for
to
adjournment?
adjourn. I make a motion to
Terry,
adjourn.
Second it.